I'm Nick Bogaty. I run the apps business at Adobe. I am going to take you through this presentation and then show you a demo of software that we're going to release in a couple of weeks around creating mobile apps. But let me first start with a comparison between mobile app development to what web development was like in the late 90s. So what you see here is a computer with two sensors that go into that computer, a keyboard and a mouse. And with the introduction of the web, you had something that transformed an industry significantly and a new medium significantly, where you had a keyboard and a mouse and then now a connected network. So these are some examples of a variety of nice websites from 2003 that I found on the internet. I particularly like Rakuten and the Japanese 2003 web design on the right. In order to make all of these things, and I remember buying these books as well, you would have to go buy a book called HTML for Dummies and read how it was done. And it's sort of amazing, by the way, how stable this brand name is, this Dummies stuff. So you'd have to go and buy a book, and then you'd have to code, and then you'd have to write the web pages that looked like these. Now you're going to have to read this code again. Okay. In 2003 or so, lots of smart people decided that hand coding web pages and, whoops, I went too fast. WordPress. 2003, WordPress was launched, which allowed normal people to create web pages without having to buy an HTML for Dummies book. This is the initial blog post introducing WordPress to the world in 2003, which isn't that long ago, but in my view, completely transformed the web by moving the power of creating web pages from people who had to learn code to people who didn't have to learn code. And I think that's a fundamental shift in all new technologies in terms of ubiquity. So now people like me could go to a form and type out your web page and hit submit, and then it would go live. And I think this has had really profound effects. I think for a large part, this change has allowed brands to go from what you see on the left in 2012 with Patagonia to what you see on the right with 2015 in Patagonia. And this is only 3 years, but to me, very much so, this side here on the left is a website run by people who work in IT, and the thing on the right is people who work in brands for a living. And I think that the only way to make that transition, which is a really new transition, is for the people who are marketers and the people who care about brands to have access to the technology directly without having to go through a filter of technology people. So now you go to this device as opposed to a desktop computer. And you have more inputs than a keyboard and a mouse, and more sensors than a keyboard and a mouse, which makes phones so great. And you have all of these things. And really, because of all of those sensors in a phone, if you have a reason to give someone to install an application on that phone, you have much more access to them than you ever had in the web because you have more sensors to access. That said, it's very similar to to the early days in the web, and I really sympathize and agree with this point, is that for all the benefit of those sensors that are available to us all to do different and interesting things, the act of making an app is ridiculously stupid and hard to do. And the access to all of those sensors is very much removed from brands and marketers who really are controlling that, want to control that experience. And you get things like this, which is iOS app development for dummies. And it's sort of the same, it's the same story all over again as the web, although you have now Xcode instead of HTML. And so what this is translating to is tech budgets at companies that are absurdly high for applications, where 10% of their 10% of their tech budgets are devoted to actually making the app, and another 10% or so is actually devoted to maintaining this thing over time. And there's a huge amount of money as a result of that being spent with outside contractors just to deal with this all. And if you compare that to the efficiencies brought to the web with things like WordPress, app development is about twice or more less efficient than now web development, because smart companies and people who build things like WordPress and other CMS systems like Drupal, took the inefficiency out of web development, and it's very much there in app development. And there's sort of solutions that are kind of trying to solve some things. But they're all point solutions. So you have app prototyping for UX design from people like Sketch. Adobe just said that they're going to make another one for prototyping for designers. And then you have development tools for MADPs like Coney, who are making this interface that looks very much like a developer tool. And then on the right, you have 8 gazillion point solutions to do various things for your applications. And all of these things are divorced from each other. So what we are trying to do is basically bring a bunch of things together. One is centralized assets and content management that you would use to power your website. We think you should also use that to power apps, to give you really good tools to actually, which I will show in a second, to actually control that app experience from a designed and brand perspective without hiring developers. The third is a whole bunch of marketing services that can be integrated, so people don't have to go around and do contracts for a push notification server and a targeting service and other things. And then the last piece of this is a very open platform to allow developers to do specific things in your application using Cordova to open up the application and to allow you to access all of those sensors on the application how you would want to do them. So instead of having developers working on the core application, we think that very much so developers should be working on integral and specific pieces of your application, very much like what they do on the web today. So what you see on the left is a dashboard for the current dashboard for WordPress, and what you see on the right is a solution from Adobe that I'm about to show you for app management. Okay, so let me go to this demo. Oh, it's time for lunch. We release software every 3 weeks with my engineering team at Adobe. What I'm about to show you is something that we're going to launch on the 24th of November. So this is coming up in a couple of weeks. So let me take you there. Okay. So this is an application that this is a real preview of a tablet application that Adobe has called Adobe Create out on the App Store. The purpose of it's very much a sort of like a media application to show creative people a bunch of exciting art and videos and other things that creative people are doing. So this is they use this is the view of their tablet application. And so what I'm going to do is on the fly I'm going to change the design of this by all of these articles that you see are sort of laid out on a grid in this design tool that is going to be released in a couple of weeks. And all of these things have different rules associated with all of these articles, and all of this mapping on the viewport of the tablet have different rules associated with it. And all of those rules are controlled from a design perspective in this tool. So this article up here has a importance associated with it of high. And so what I'm going to do is just say, okay, for this card, what I want on this page is to have everything with high kind of be bigger. Okay, and so what we should see here, hopefully, is I'm getting Twitter messages from what I'm saying currently. So I was at a conference once and I was saying something and someone totally misquoted me and it came up. They had like Twitter things right here and it came up and I was like, who in this room said that? Because it's totally inaccurate. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is, if you remember that screen, whoops, this is too complicated with so many devices. Let me just go to QuickTime. Okay, so this is my iPad, and you'll see the same layout that we just showed, and then once I hit this update, you'll now see the change that I made. So it's real-time communication, and this is a fully native application. So this may seem sort of not particularly new in terms of the perspective of the web. In terms of a mobile app, this kind of stuff is entirely new, where you're basically bringing all of those efficiencies that were brought with things like WordPress into the web to mobile app development. So there you go. I'm someone who doesn't know Xcode at all, and you made that change. And so let me just show you another example here. And I'm just going to make a change now on my phone. Oh, lovely. So I've been logged out. Give me a second. Huh? What? Oh, right. Thank you. Okay. Demo. Oh, I want demo phone. Hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Okay, and so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to bring in a bunch of content that I have that I want to distribute into this application. And so this is a viewport now of my phone. I'm just going to put this at an aspect ratio for the iPhone 6, which is what I have here. And then what I'm going to do is not change a layout. I'm just going to reorder things. And I'm doing this manually as a designer. Obviously, we have a bunch of algorithms where like a machine could do this kind of thing, which seems to sort of be the theme of this conference, machines instead of people. So what we're going to do here is now save this, and I put, let's see, let me just put this article with this nice Japanese bridge first, okay? And now I'm going to switch back over to QuickTime. And I'm going to switch to my iPhone. It's not going to crash. Okay. And uh-oh, I don't want to cancel download. Brr. Okay, bear with me. While we wait for it to update. There you go. Okay, so iPhone, new content, shifting around a human being or a machine, and then total layouts redesigned on an iPad, all from a central service a la WordPress. That's the end of my presentation. Any questions? Oh, by the way, since there's lots of agencies, I would imagine that this would be a really good thing for agencies to use for their clients.
Hey, hi.
Hi, quick question. So, in terms of like application logic, you still need a developer on the back end in order to implement that logic, right? Or
No, all of the, I'll give you a preview. Now I'm going to get into real dangerous territory here. But when you see all of this, when you see all of these cards, well, actually, let me just, how am I going to show this? I am getting into dangerous territory. All of this logic that you see here with all of these, we refer to all these different sections as cards. All of the logic for the cards is set up by you in the tool, and it's all driven by metadata. So all of that text is driven by metadata, and the placement and order. In the placement and order of all these cards is driven by metadata rules, which we call mapping rules, in the card. So you don't need any developers to do this. What we would imagine that you need developers to do, and when I was talking about that Twitter thing, I presented this, and it's like, Adobe guy doesn't care about developers. And then I was like, what? And so what we'd imagine developers to do is, if they wanted specific plugins, what we're exposing here is HTML cards that could take stuff from the web and put it in there, whatever you wanted. And then also, we would use Cordova, so you can compile these applications with specific Cordova plugins that you wanted to create yourself. But all of the layouts and the mapping rules are done in this tool.
so, I mean, it's definitely just like right now I'm seeing, and it's probably just because it was demoed for this purpose, but you see these articles and whatnot. But I'm thinking like from the perspective of an agency, let's say we're trying to show visualizations, or we're trying to show like calculations, or like taking Excel data, importing it, and then trying to like manipulate it.
Sure.
Are you basically saying we could do this with like a WordPress-esque backend?
Yeah, you could just create those widgets in HTML, or eventually in Cordova, and just put them into these pages. Yes, absolutely. Like we have something called a web card, where you can just place these things in there.
Just a quick question over here. Hi.
Hi.
So just to better understand from the beginning of your presentation, at what point are inputs accessible here, to the extent that when you made a long list of potential inputs that's available on a mobile device, do I have to do that on the HTML or 5 or Cordova layer, or do I have access to that within your framework? In other words, can I say, accelerometer, please push page?
Right, so what you're seeing here, I think I understand your question, but what you're seeing here is sort of like the presentation layer of the application. What we are going to do is allow you to access all of the device controls using a Cordova web view. And so you could basically extend this presentation layer using Cordova, which would directly access the device. Does that answer your question?
It does. I don't know how hard Cordova is, so I wonder if that dovetails.
Not that hard.
Okay, because I
But
wonder
you
if
still have to get a dummies book to
yeah.
know how to do it.
So in a certain sense, being a developer is helpful there as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's why I would imagine that developers would participate in extending these applications. In the same way that a marketer or someone can create HTML pages, and if there wanted to be anything sort of more intense, they would hire a developer to do it. We have kind of the same attitude here.
Hi, I don't have a question, but I have a comment, and if I'm wrong, you can feel free to contradict me.
Sure.
But as I saw you presenting this, it reminded me of a tool that I use all the time, which is PowerPoint. Yeah. Just a super easy way to put together this essentially presentation, except it's actually an app, yeah. And it can immediately be online, connected, on tablet or app. So is that, I mean, if that's really what it is, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to take the PowerPoint analogy. Thank you, I guess. Okay. Yes, okay. I'll take it as a compliment and easy. I'll take it not as a compliment in terms of design capabilities. But yeah, I mean that's the idea here. We just felt that app development was just the simplest stuff in terms of presentation was just sort of like way too inaccessible and way too hard. And so at least getting a really, really rich experience out on phones and tablets and cross-platform that performs great is what I think we've done here.
I just have a quick question. Yeah. So when you create a layout, are you deploying a responsive layout across? Are you deploying a responsive layout across all devices, or are you creating a separate layout for iPad because that's the true power of being able to, that's the power of WordPress and the power of responsiveness. Yeah. And is this beholding that power?
The answer is yes to both of those questions. It's we call these browse pages. These browse pages are responsive, so they'll increase and decrease according to the size of the screen. That said, there is an ability, as I just showed here, to do different layouts for different screen sizes, which you might want to do just to take advantage of the real estate of the bigger screen. But if you don't want to, then this iPhone thing is just going to get much bigger on the iPad. But I think there's probably some design affordances where you'd want to do different layouts for tablets than phones. Okay, thank you very much.